Look at this thief! She entered here with a mop, but her eyes were inside rich people's pockets. Ordinary cleaner, you do not know your level?
The music died with Mercy Ibe still on her knees. Dirty water crawled across the white wedding floor, soaking the hem of her deep teal uniform, while 481 guests watched. Some covered their mouths, others raised their phones. Above her, Ronka Coca held up a sapphire brooch. "Look at this thief," she shouted. She entered here with a mop, but her eyes were inside rich people's pockets. "Ordinary cleaner, you do not know your level?" Mercy's fingers tightened around the wet cloth. "Ma, somebody planted that brooch inside my apron." "Shut your mouth!" The security supervisor grabbed her injured arm and dragged her forward. Mercy winced. "Do not pull me like that. Support the arm before you move me." At the groom's table, Bode Balagan froze. 12 years earlier, beneath twisted steel inside an Apapa warehouse, one bleeding woman had shouted those exact words while fighting to keep him alive. Bode's champagne glass slipped from his hand. "Mercy?" The entire hall went silent. Before you hear what the billionaire Groom did next, subscribe now, comment your city or country, and your local time below, and do not leave this story halfway, because the real betrayal had not even been exposed. 11 hours earlier, before the white dance floor had become a courtroom, and before 481 guests discovered how cheaply they could be entertained by another person's shame, Mercy Ibe stepped down from a crowded bus at Amadou Bello Way. The time on her small black phone was 6:13 in the morning. Lagos had not fully opened its eyes, but it was already arguing. A bus conductor slapped the side of his vehicle and shouted for passengers. A woman balancing a tray of bread complained that somebody had brushed against her nylon. 2 motorcycles squeezed through a gap that did not exist until they forced it into existence. Mercy adjusted the mustard scarf tied over her hair and began the 700-meter walk to Astor Hall. She did not rush. Rushing had become expensive since the pain in her left shoulder started returning. Some mornings it was only a dull pull beneath the joint. On bad days it traveled down her arm and settled inside her fingers, as if somebody had hidden small stones there while she slept. That Saturday was not yet a bad day. She carried 1 canvas bag. Inside it were a folded deep teal uniform, rubber-soled shoes, a plastic bottle of water, 2 tablets wrapped in tissue, a meat pie she had bought the previous evening, and a brown envelope containing her rent reminder. The rent reminder was not a letter anybody needed to read twice. 6 days. That was what she had left. The agency had promised her 18,500 naira for the wedding shift. Another 3,500 if the work continued after 9 at night. 1 meal. Transport allowance. Refund of the uniform deposit after the event. It was not enough to clear the rent. It was enough to stop the landlord from changing the padlock. For that reason, Mercy entered Astor Hall through the service gate at 6:26 and greeted the guard as if her life was not being measured in 6-day portions. "Good morning, sir." The guard looked at the printed list clipped to his board. Name? Mercy Ibe. He found it on the 3rd page, drew a line beside it and pointed to a metal door. "Staff room. They have started shouting since." Mercy gave a small nod. "Then the day has started properly." The guard looked up, uncertain whether she was joking. Mercy had already moved on. Inside, Astor Hall smelled of furniture polish, flowers, and cold air. The main lobby had ivory walls, tall mirrors, and arrangements of deep red roses standing in gold frames. At the center, a board carried the names of the bride and groom in raised letters: Titi and Bode. Beneath the names was the wedding message: honoring the hands that build our lives. Mercy read it once, Then she followed the sound of voices down the service corridor. The staff room had no windows. 30 people were squeezed between stacked chairs, crates of bottled water, and 2 clothing racks. Some were servers. Some were cleaners. Others had been hired to carry flowers, manage gifts, and move equipment after the guests left. A woman in a black velvet crest polo shirt stood at a folding table, pushing forms toward them. "Sign your name and move. We do not have the whole day." Mercy reached the table at 6:39. The form had names on the left and empty columns on the right. No shift time, no rate, no description of work. At the bottom, there was a printed sentence saying all payments had been received in full. Mercy kept the pen above the paper. "What time are we signing in, Ma?" The woman did not look at her, just sign. "And the amount? Madam, are you here to work or to inspect us?" "I am here to work. That is why I want the work written." People behind Mercy began shifting. Nobody wanted to be noticed this early. The woman finally lifted her face. "Write your name. Payment will come after the event." Mercy set the pen down. "This sentence says payment has come already." For 3 seconds, only the ventilation fan spoke. Then a man behind Mercy whispered, "My sister, sign first. We will ask later." Mercy turned slightly. "If they write later that you collected what you did not collect, what will you use to ask?" The woman in the polo shirt slapped her palm on the table. "Nobody is forcing you to stay." Mercy looked at the brown envelope inside her canvas bag. She could almost hear the paper rubbing against itself. 6 days. She picked up the pen, drew one line through the sentence about full payment, wrote 6:39 a.m. beside her name, and signed. The woman snatched the form. "You people like trouble too much." "No, Ma," Mercy said. "Trouble likes people who do not keep records." A few workers looked down quickly so their smiles would not be seen. On the wall beside the table was a typed staff roster. 31 names. Mercy read them while pretending to adjust her scarf. Then she removed her phone and took one photograph. The flash was off. Still, the woman saw her. "Why are you snapping?" "So I will remember the names of the people I am working with." "Submit your phone. All temporary staff must submit phones." Mercy glanced toward a plastic crate, already holding more than 20 devices. "Who will be responsible if it is missing?" "You again?" The metal door opened before Mercy could answer. Ronka Coker entered wearing an electric magenta jumpsuit, silver heels, and an expression that made the room smaller. She was 40 years old and moved as if every floor had been laid specifically to receive her. 2 assistants followed her with tablets. A tape measure hung from one assistant's neck. The other carried a small velvet box and 3 garment bags. Ronke stopped at the doorway. "Why are people still standing here?" The woman at the table pointed at Mercy. "This one is asking questions." Ronke's gaze traveled over Mercy's scarf, canvas bag, and worn shoes. It did not hurry. That was the insult. "What question?" Mercy faced her. "The form says we have received full payment. We have not started work." Ronke held out her hand. The form was given to her. She saw the line Mercy had drawn through the sentence. "Your name?" "Mercy Ebe." "Mercy, this is a wedding, not a labor congress. Nobody has time for this kind of village stubbornness. The form should say what happened, Ma." Ronka smiled without moving any other part of her face. "You are here because somebody called you to carry dirty water. Do that one well before you start teaching professionals how to run a company." Mercy looked at her for a moment. "All right, Ma. Please write my sign-in time beside my name." Ronke's smile disappeared. One assistant shifted her weight. Ronke took the pen, wrote 6:39, and pushed the paper back onto the table. "Collect her phone." Mercy removed the SIM card before placing the phone into the crate. Ronke noticed. Of course she noticed. "What is that?" "My SIM." "Why?" Because the phone belongs to me. Ronke stepped closer. Her perfume was sharp and expensive, but beneath it, Mercy caught the faint smell of coffee. Listen to me carefully. Today, nobody is poor, tired, or confused. If you have a problem, hide it until the last guest leaves. Do you understand? Mercy folded the SIM card into the corner of her handkerchief. I understand what you said. It was not the answer Ronke wanted, but 30 people were waiting, and the hall had already begun to misbehave. Ronke turned away. Uniforms. 5 minutes. Anyone late will lose half payment. The workers scattered. Mercy changed in a washroom with a broken latch. Her deep teal uniform fitted across the waist, but pulled slightly at the left shoulder. She pinned her mustard scarf more firmly, tied on a charcoal apron, and changed into rubber-soled shoes. When she came out, the main hall was awake. Men on ladders adjusted chandeliers. Florists carried red roses toward the stage. Servers counted glasses in groups of 12. A technician tested the LED wall, while another man crawled behind it with a torch between his teeth. At each table, a small ivory card carried the same message Mercy had seen in the lobby: honoring the hands that build our lives. She picked one up while dusting the edge of a table. The card was thick enough to cost more than her transport for the week. She placed it back exactly where she found it. At 7:18, Ronke marched into the hall and pointed at a faint watermark near the stage. Who cleaned this place? Mercy raised her hand. I did, Ma. That water is coming from the air conditioning vent. Ronke looked up. A clear drop gathered along the edge of the vent and fell. It landed between them. Ronke still turned to Mercy. So because water is coming down, your hand cannot go up? I have cleaned it 3 times. The leak needs maintenance. Ronke kicked the yellow caution sign aside with the tip of her silver heel. Your job is to remove water. Do not become an engineer because you saw one drop. Mercy picked up the sign. If somebody falls, the water will not explain that it was waiting for maintenance. Ronke leaned closer. Poor people are becoming too confident these days. Carry your mop and know your level. Then she walked away. Mercy watched the magenta fabric disappear between gold-covered chairs. She did not answer. Some battles were hungry. If you fed them too early, they followed you all day. Across the road, on the 18th floor of a hotel, where the curtains closed by remote control, Bode Balagun stood before a mirror while one of his groomsmen tried to straighten the royal blue embroidery on his ivory jacket. Leave it, Bode said. It is bending. It is cloth. It can bend. The man stepped back, offended on behalf of the jacket. Bode looked at his own reflection. At 39, he had learned how wealth changed the way people watched him. A waiter watched to see whether his water glass had dropped below half. A banker watched his mouth before deciding whether a joke was funny. Strangers who had never met him lowered their voices when he entered a room. Money did that. It made ordinary movements look like decisions. Bode flexed his right wrist. The old injury answered with a small stiffness. It was worse during Harmattan, though doctors had told him the bone had healed properly. They always said properly, as if the body had signed an agreement. His phone rang. Titi. He answered on video. Her face appeared first, then a white veil, then the ceiling because somebody in the bridal suite was fixing an earring while she held the phone. Can you see me? She asked. I can see one eye and half the ceiling. That is enough. You have seen my full face for 2 years. He smiled. Behind her, people moved quickly. Brushes, pins, a garment bag. Somebody saying the steamer had stopped working. Titi brought the phone closer. Bode, but you are not checking fire exits today, am I? I checked them yesterday. Her eye narrowed. You see? This is what I am talking about. I only asked where the nearest exit was. You asked for the inspection certificate. It was on the wall. You still asked. He rubbed the inside of his wrist. I like knowing how people will leave a place if something goes wrong. And today nothing will go wrong. That is what people say 5 minutes before. Bode. He stopped. Titty lowered her voice. Today leave safety and schedules for Ronke. Just be my husband. He looked at her one visible eye, the corner of it already shining because of the light or something else. All right, he said. Today, I will be your husband. Good. But if the ceiling falls... She ended the call. Bode laughed once and put the phone down. It was a harmless promise. That was how the dangerous ones usually entered. Back at Astor Hall, Mercy had already discovered that the staff meal promised by the agency was 3 loaves of sliced bread, 1 bowl of margarine, and 2 sachets of water for every 5 workers. The food had been placed on a plastic table in the service corridor at 8:42. Nobody complained at first. Complaints needed energy too. Mercy sat on an upturned crate and ate half of the meat pie she brought from home. She wrapped the rest again. A younger cleaner beside her looked at the bread. They said 1 meal. This is 1 meal, an assistant replied. You can see food. There is no tea. Are you attending the wedding? The cleaner lowered her face. Mercy pushed half of her meat pie across the crate. Take. The woman hesitated. What will you eat later? I am managing. That answer was common in Lagos. It could mean a person was fine. It could mean everything had collapsed, except the person's ability to stand. The woman took the pie. Mercy drank water and returned to the hall. By 9:30, the florists had finished the stage. The ivory and gold looked soft beneath the lights, but there was nothing soft about the work behind it. One worker carried metal frames until the skin between his thumb and finger split. A server polished 211 glasses because Ronke rejected any glass with a watermark. The technician behind the LED wall asked 3 times for an extra extension cable and was told to make do. Mercy saw all of it because cleaners saw what other people stepped over. They saw the wilted flower hidden behind the fresh one, the loose thread beneath the tablecloth, the guest who wiped lipstick on a napkin and pushed it under a plate, the worker who stood very still because his back had started hurting and he did not want anybody to remove him from the shift. At 10:47, Mercy was cleaning the narrow area between the stage and the LED wall when a cold drop struck the back of her hand. She looked up. Another drop formed along the insulated pipe above the power unit. It fell onto the floor less than 1 meter from a cluster of extension sockets. Mercy moved the mop bucket aside. Sir, she called to the technician. He was kneeling behind the wall, sorting cables. What? Water is coming near this power box. He pushed himself upright and came over. The moment he saw the wet line, his face changed. Who put the chiller drain like this? Mercy pointed upward. It has been dripping since morning. It is moving toward your cables. The technician crouched, touched the floor with 2 fingers, then wiped them on his trousers. We need to isolate this side. How long? 8 minutes, maybe 10, then do it. He gave Mercy a look. Madam, I cannot just off the screen. They are testing entrance video. Can you move the cables? Not with power on. Mercy placed 2 caution signs around the wet patch and pulled a service cart across the nearest opening. Ronke arrived less than 2 minutes later. What is this? The technician explained. Ronke looked at the blank section of LED wall where he had already switched off 1 panel. Turn it back on. Ma. Water is close to the distributor. Turn it back on. The camera team is testing in 5 minutes. We should shut down this line and dry. Did I employ you to describe water to me? Ronke asked. This hall passed inspection. Turn it on. The technician glanced at Mercy. Mercy said, The water is here now, Ma. Inspection yesterday, cannot dry it today. Ronki's head turned slowly. So it is you again. I reported what I saw. You have been in this hall for 4 hours and you now know more than everybody. No, Ma. I know water and live electricity should not meet. The technician pressed his lips together. Ronke stepped over the caution tape. Mercy had stretched between the signs. This entire wedding is being filmed. Do you understand what that means? If that screen goes off during their entrance, the damage will be more than what you can earn in 10 years. Mercy looked at the sockets. If it shocks somebody, the damage will be more than the screen. Ronk snatched one of the caution signs and threw it behind the stage. Your job is to clean water, not advise people who can afford electricity. The technician stared at the floor. Mercy did not. You can remove the sign, she said. The water will remain. Ronki's fingers tightened around her tablet. For one moment, Mercy thought she might strike her. Instead, Ronki faced the technician. Dry it. Move the box 6 inches, no shutdown. Ma, do your work. Then she pointed at Mercy. And you, go to the front lobby. If I see you near this stage again, I will send you out without 1 naira. Mercy bent, picked up the caution sign, and carried it with her. At the lobby, guests had not yet arrived, but photographers were already taking pictures of rings, flowers, and empty chairs. Mercy cleaned fingerprints from the mirrored wall, while the wedding planner's assistants argued about the placement of a portrait. She waited until nobody was looking. Then she approached the plastic crate where staff phones had been kept. The woman at the table had left to collect uniforms. Only one assistant was nearby, speaking into a headset. Mercy found her phone, inserted the SIM card, and opened the camera. She returned to the edge of the hall and took 3 photographs from different angles. The leaking pipe, the wet floor, the power distribution unit. She emailed them to herself with the subject line, Astor Hall, water near power, 10:58 a.m. Then she deleted the sent message from the phone, removed her SIM, and returned the device to the crate. She had learned the habit 12 years earlier, after a man in a white shirt had told her that memory was not evidence. That man had been wrong about many things. Not that one. At 11:26, the first delivery vehicles began to arrive. Gift bags, cakes, boxes of program cards. One refrigerated van carrying floral arrangements that were already on display because nobody had updated the schedule. Mercy moved through the lobby with a cloth in one hand and a small spray bottle in the other. Near the main entrance, she paused before the wedding message again. Honoring the hands that build our lives, a photographer asked her to move out of frame. Please, Ma, you are reflecting in the mirror. Mercy stepped aside. He took the picture. The card remained in the center. The hands were gone. By 12:15, Bode's convoy entered the hotel across the road. From the service entrance of Astor Hall, Mercy saw only flashes of black vehicles through the gate. Some workers moved closer to look. Ronki clapped sharply. Back to your positions. Have you never seen a car before? One server muttered. Not one that is longer than my street. Mercy almost smiled. Almost. The staff were divided into zones. Mercy was assigned to the rear corridor, the lobby washrooms, and the passage beside the floral room. Ronke's assistant handed her a printed sheet. You will sign this at the end. The sheet showed 6 Sirat a.m. as the start time and 9 p.m. as the finish time. What if we finish after 9? Mercy asked. There is no overtime. The agency said 3,500. The agency did not organize this wedding. Who will pay us? Velvet Crest. Then Velvet Crest should write the rate. The assistant took the sheet back. You like writing too much for somebody carrying mop. Mercy held out her hand again. I like being paid for the work I carry. The assistant walked away with the paper. 3 workers nearby had heard the exchange. One of them whispered, "Madam Mercy, they will remove you." Mercy wrung out her cloth. If they remove me for asking the amount, they were already planning not to pay it. The worker looked toward Ronke, who was directing a florist with both hands. "But we need this money." "So do I." "Then why are you not afraid?" Mercy folded the cloth into a square. "I am afraid. Fear does not make the paper correct." The worker said nothing after that. At 1:03, the bridal party arrived through the private entrance. Titi was still upstairs in a suite at the hotel, but her dresses, jewelry, and personal boxes were brought into Astor Hall under Ronke's supervision. Among them was a small sapphire brooch that had belonged to Titi's grandmother. Ronke held it up beneath the light. Blue stone, silver setting, old-fashioned, heavy, and impossible to ignore. "Be careful with that," one assistant said. Ronke turned it once between her fingers. "I know what it is." She placed it inside a small velvet box and closed the lid. Mercy passed the doorway carrying a bucket. She did not see the brooch. Ronke saw her. Their eyes met for less than a second. Then Mercy moved on. At 1:41, Bode crossed the connecting service passage with 2 groomsmen and a venue employee. It was the quickest route from the hotel's private lift to a small room where he would wait before the ceremony. Mercy was kneeling behind a flower cart, wiping water from the wheel tracks. Bode saw a mustard scarf and the back of a deep teal uniform. Something in the combination slowed him. He turned his head. One of the groomsmen caught his elbow. "Bode, they are waiting." The flower cart shifted. Mercy bent lower to reach beneath it. Bode continued walking. By the time Mercy stood, the passage was empty. She pressed her left shoulder once and picked up the bucket. The old pain had started. The ceremony began at 2:07 in the afternoon. From the rear corridor, Mercy heard the hall rise for Titi's entrance. The music traveled through the walls before the applause did. Then came a longer sound, warm and scattered, the kind people made when they were genuinely pleased. Mercy could not see the bride. She saw what the bride left behind: a bent hairpin near the washroom, a strip of transparent tape pressed into the carpet, powder on the rim of a sink, 3 tissues folded into the waste bin by somebody who did not want lipstick showing on top. Work always had its own version of an event. At 2:34, a guest in a gold wrapper came out of the hall and stopped near the lobby pillar. She was an older woman, broad across the shoulders, with one hand pressed against her chest. Mercy noticed because the woman was not walking toward anywhere. She was trying to remain standing. "Ma?" The woman waved her away. "I am fine." Mercy moved closer but did not touch her. "Can you sit down for me?" "I said I am fine." Her knees softened. Mercy caught the back of a chair and pulled it beneath her before she dropped. A pair of bridesmaids turned at the sound. One had already lifted her phone. "Please, no video," Mercy said. The bridesmaid frowned. "I am calling somebody. Call the medical team. Do not record her." Mercy crouched in front of the woman. "Ma, can you hear me?" "Yes. Are you having pain?" "Just weak." "Do you have somebody here?" "My sister is inside." Mercy asked an usher to get the medical team and another worker to find the woman's sister. She did not give medicine. She did not pour water into the woman's mouth. She loosened nothing and made no dramatic announcement. She simply kept the crowd from closing in. One bridesmaid whispered to the other, "Why is the cleaner behaving like doctor?" Mercy heard. She ignored it. A venue medic arrived with a small bag and checked the woman. Low blood sugar, most likely. The medic gave her a measured drink and asked questions. Within minutes, color began returning to her face. Ronke appeared after the danger had already passed. What happened? The bridesmaid spoke first. "This woman nearly fell." The cleaner was making everybody stand here. Mercy rose slowly. I asked for the medical team. Ronke looked at the older guest, then at the phones and then at Mercy. You left your zone? The woman could not stand. Is she your mother? No, Ma. Then why did you abandon your work? The older woman opened her mouth, but the medic was still speaking to her. Mercy answered, I did not abandon it. I called the person trained to help her. Ronke smiled at the bridesmaids. You see what I face? Give some people uniform and they begin to carry themselves on their head. One bridesmaid laughed. Mercy looked at the phone still raised in the woman's hand. Ma, please delete any video you made. She did not agree for you to record her. The laughter stopped. The bridesmaid's mouth fell open. Ronke stepped between them. You are ordering a guest. I am asking her not to turn somebody's weak moment into content. Ronke's voice dropped. Go back to your corridor before I remove you from this building. Mercy glanced at the older woman. The medic nodded once, meaning the situation was under control. She picked up her cleaning cloth and left. Behind her, the bridesmaid said, This cleaner is rude. Mercy continued walking. People often called a poor person rude when they could not find a polite way to make her small. At 3:16, the temporary workers were given 13 minutes to eat. The promised meal had not improved. More bread arrived. This time there was stew in a foil tray, but no spoons. Workers tore pieces of bread and dipped them with their fingers. The servers were told not to sit because their uniforms would crease. Mercy stood near the service sink and ate the second half of her meat pie. A server counted the workers aloud. 28 here. 3 still inside. 31. Another man held up an invoice sheet he had found beside the coordinator's printer. Why is this paper saying 47 event workers? The corridor became quiet. Show me, Mercy said. He handed it to her. The invoice listed 47 temporary staff at a rate higher than the workers had been promised. It also included staff meals, bottled drinks and overtime provision until midnight. Mercy read each line twice. A cleaner beside her said, Maybe other people are coming. They have closed registration, the server replied. Nobody else is coming. Another worker pointed to the meal line. They charged $6,500 per person for food. Everybody looked at the bread. The bread did not defend itself. Mercy folded the paper once, but did not remove it from the corridor. Who found this? The server raised his hand. Take a picture. Our phones are inside the crate. Mercy looked toward the far door. Ronke's assistants were moving in and out. Then remember the invoice number. The server read it aloud. VCTB 161-12409. Mercy repeated it. 2 others repeated it after her. The woman in the black polo shirt entered. What are you people doing? Nobody answered. She saw the invoice in Mercy's hand and crossed the corridor quickly. Give me that. Mercy handed it over. The woman scanned the faces. This is company information. Why are you reading it? It was on the table, the server said. Then close your eyes next time. Mercy wiped her fingertips on a napkin. We are 31. The invoice says 47. The woman looked at her. Is accounting your work? No, Ma. But 31 is smaller than 47. Somebody coughed to hide a laugh. The woman crushed the paper lightly in her fist. There are people working off-site. Where? Mercy asked. Madam Mercy, you have too many questions. And the overtime is already inside the invoice. The woman's face hardened. Finish eating. You have 4 minutes. She left with the invoice. The workers began whispering all at once. We should confront them. No, wait until after. They will not pay us. They have our phones. My uniform deposit is 10,000. Mine is 7. Mercy raised one hand. Do not scatter. First, we confirm what each person was promised. Write it somewhere you will not lose. On what? Mercy tore the clean back from the meat pie wrapper and passed it to the nearest worker. Anything. A server said, "If we make noise now, they can chase all of us." That is true. So what do we do? Work. Keep the time. Do not sign that you collected money you did not collect. A man shook his head. They will blacklist us. Mercy looked at him. They may. Nobody liked her answer. She did not sweeten it. Keep your proof, she said. A promise in your head is easy for another person to deny. At 3:29, the 13 minutes ended. They returned to the hall. The ceremony moved toward photographs. The bride and groom stood beneath the flower arch, while families arranged themselves in groups. Ronke directed them with a microphone, smiling for guests and snapping at workers whenever she turned away. Move that chair. Not there. Are you blind? Carry those bottles away. Do you want rich people to see plastic? Mercy cleaned the edge of the dance floor and watched Bode from a distance for the first time. He stood beside Titi in the ivory suit, one hand at her waist. He was taller than Mercy remembered the young engineer beneath the broken roof. But memory did not keep people at their true size. It kept one angle, one voice, one patch of blood. Mercy's hand stopped on the mop handle. No, she looked again. The groom turned to greet an older guest. His right wrist bent stiffly before he reached out. Mercy's fingers loosened. For 12 years, she had heard that the young engineer survived. She had heard he left the company. Later, somebody said he started his own business. Years after that, his face appeared once on a newspaper wrapped around roasted corn at a roadside stall. Bode Balogun. She had stared at the photograph until the seller asked whether she wanted the corn or the paper. Now he was standing 30 meters away. Alive. Laughing. About to begin a marriage. Mercy lowered her eyes to the floor. This was not the place. She had not come to pull an old debt from a man on his wedding day. She had no letter prepared, no speech, no clean version of what happened after the warehouse collapsed. And she did not want to stand before him in a wet uniform while people waited to discover what reward a billionaire would give the cleaner who once saved him. Some kindness became ugly when witnesses started pricing it. Mercy moved the mop to the next section. She did not see Ronke watching her. Ronke followed Mercy's line of sight toward Bode. Her mouth tightened. At 4:08, Ronke entered the side office and closed the door behind her. Her phone screen was crowded with messages. A fabric supplier wanted payment. The lighting company threatened to remove equipment from another event. A bank reminder showed an overdue business facility. Then came a message from a member of Bode's corporate procurement team, attending as a guest. Beautiful setup. Let us discuss the Asterline conference series next week. Ronke read it 3 times. That contract could keep Velvet Crest alive. Not comfortable, alive. She opened the wedding budget. Labor, 47 temporary workers. Staff catering, fully paid. Overtime allowance, approved. Equipment safety contingency, approved. Numbers filled the screen, clean numbers. The reality outside the office was 31 workers eating bread with their fingers. Ronke locked the phone. She had not started Velvet Crest to remain ordinary. She had spent 11 years watching wealthy clients speak to her as if they had invented taste. She had borrowed to buy equipment, borrowed to rent an office, borrowed again when 2 clients refused final payment after their events. At some point, survival and greed had begun wearing the same clothes. Ronke no longer knew when they exchanged names. A knock came. One assistant entered. The cleaner who argued this morning was asking about the invoice. Ronke looked up. Mercy? Yes, Ma. And she took a picture of the staff list. Has she used her phone? She removed her SIM before submitting it. I saw her near the crate earlier, but I cannot say whether. Ronke stood. Why did you not stop her? I was on headset with the florist. Ronka paced once behind the desk. Check her bag. The assistant hesitated. Now? Not now. Find out where they keep the cleaners' things. The assistant nodded. Ronki looked through the glass panel toward the main hall. Mercy was kneeling near a table, wiping a splash of drink. Beyond her, Bode and Titi posed for another photograph beneath the words, honoring the hands that build our lives. Ronki tapped one finger against the desk. That woman is collecting evidence, she said. Before reception starts, remove her. The assistant shifted. How? Ronki's eyes moved to the small velvet box resting beside the garment bags. She did not answer, not yet. At 5:02, the LED wall flickered for the first time. One quick blink, then another. The technician looked toward the power unit. A thin line of water had crossed the place Mercy marked earlier. He called for the venue electrician. No one heard him over the music. The third flicker came with a dry crack. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the small, ugly sound of plastic beginning to fail. Mercy was at the far end of the hall when she smelled it. Burnt insulation had a way of entering the nose before the mind gave it a name. She left the mop beside a pillar and moved toward the stage. Ronke saw her. I told you not to come here. Mercy did not stop. Something is burning. Go back to your zone. The technician came from behind the LED wall, waving both hands. Off the music. We need to isolate power. The disc jockey lowered the sound. Guests turned in their chairs. Ronke hurried over. What is happening? The extension block is heating, so change it. We have to shut this side down first. The entrance video starts in 14 minutes. The technician crouched and pointed. A brown mark had appeared on one socket. Water glistened beside it. Ma, I am not touching that with power on. Ronke bent closer, then straightened as if refusing to be impressed. How long? 8 minutes if the backup line is good. 5. It is not beans we are pricing. The words escaped before the technician could pull them back. Mercy looked away to hide the corner of her mouth. Ronke did not find it funny. Switch it, she said. The technician signaled to the venue electrician. At 5:07, half the LED wall went black. The hall filled with voices. A camera operator complained. A bridesmaid asked whether the generator had failed. One guest laughed and said even billionaire weddings suffered Nigerian light. Ronke stood in the middle of it, smiling for the room and boiling underneath. Small technical adjustment, she announced. Please enjoy your drinks. Then she turned on Mercy. You. Mercy had already placed caution tape across the wet area. Yes, Ma? You caused this confusion. I reported the leak at 10:47. You kept disturbing the technicians until they switched off the screen. The technician looked up. Ma, nobody disturbed me. The socket was heating. Ronke's eyes cut toward him. You people want to embarrass me today? Mercy pointed to the burn mark. That thing embarrassed itself. The technician coughed into his fist. Ronke stepped close enough that only Mercy and the technician could hear her. Take off your badge. Mercy's hand went to the plastic card, clipped to her apron. For what reason? Do I need permission to remove a cleaner from my event? You need to tell me why. You abandoned your zone. You interfered with technical operations. You spoke rudely to a guest. Which one do you want? Mercy unclipped the badge but did not hand it over. Write it, Ronke stared. Write what? The reason you are removing me. Write the hours I worked. Write the amount you will pay. Are you mad? No, Ma. You think because you can form grammar, you and I are equal? Mercy looked at the badge between her fingers. We are not doing equal work. But the truth should be equal for both of us. The venue electrician arrived with a tester. Ronke had to step aside. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she snatched the badge from Mercy's hand. Go to the staff room. Wait there. Do not touch anything. Mercy nodded. Please preserve the camera in this corridor. Ronki's face changed. It was small, a tightening beside the nose. Most people would have missed it. Mercy did not. Why are you talking about camera? Ronki asked. Because you are removing me after I reported a hazard. It is better everybody keeps what happened. Ronki leaned in. Go, Mercy. Went. Behind her, the backup power line came on. The LED wall returned in sections, one panel after another, until the gold animation resumed as if nothing had happened. That was the thing about expensive events. They were designed to swallow evidence quickly. At 5:44, Titi entered the bridal suite, wearing her reception gown. The crimson fabric fitted close at the waist and opened into a long train. Her veil was gone. Her hair had been rearranged, and the sapphire brooch sat at the left side of her neckline. She turned before the mirror. It is too much with the dress, she said. Ronk stood behind her, fastening a silver bracelet. It is your grandmother's own. I know. But the blue is fighting the red. Everything cannot be matching. Titi touched the brooch. It is pulling the fabric, too. She unfastened it carefully and placed it in Ronki's palm. Keep this yourself. Do not give it to anybody. Ronke closed her fingers around it. I know. The wedding photographer had been taking candid pictures near the mirror. His camera clicked 3 times while Titi passed the brooch over. Ronki noticed him only after the 3rd picture. Please. No photo while she is adjusting jewelry. He lowered the camera. Sorry, Ma. Titi turned from the mirror. Where is the small velvet box? Inside the garment bag, Ronki said. She opened the box, placed the brooch inside, and shut it. At 5:52, the photographer captured one last image of Ronke, holding the closed box beside the crimson dress. The time sat quietly inside the file. It would not speak until somebody asked it. In the staff room, Mercy sat on the end of a bench, with her canvas bag between her shoes. 2 other cleaners changed cloths beside the sink. A server came in looking for bottled water. Nobody knew whether Mercy had been dismissed or merely hidden. Mercy herself did not know. She asked the woman in the black polo shirt for her phone. Ronki said you should wait. I am waiting. I need to call the agency. No phone until shift ends. My shift ended when she took my badge. The woman folded her arms. Madam, do not give me problem. Give me paper then. For what? To write the time she removed me. The woman laughed without humor. You think this is court? No. That is why I am writing before people start forgetting. The server, searching for water, glanced at Mercy, then at the door. He found a small event program on the table and passed it to her when the woman turned away. Mercy took a pen from her bag and wrote on the blank back, 5:07 p.m. Power, isolated after burning smell. 5:11 p.m. Ronke removed staff badge. Requested written reason and payment record. She folded the program and put it inside the brown rent envelope. The woman in the polo shirt saw. What did you write? My own memory. Show me. No, Ma. You are on company property. My memory is not company property. The woman stepped forward, but footsteps sounded in the corridor. Ronke's assistant entered carrying the small velvet box. She and the woman exchanged a look. Mercy noticed that too. The assistant pointed at the 2 cleaners near the sink. You people, go and help at the gift table. Then she pointed at the server. You too. They need water outside. Within seconds, Mercy was alone with the 2 women. Ronke's assistant put the velvet box on the table. Open your bag. Mercy did not move. Why? Routine check. Routine started now? All staff bags are being checked. Bring a venue representative and 1 witness. The assistant rolled her eyes. Who do you think you are? The owner of the bag. The woman in the polo shirt reached for it. Mercy placed her palm on top. Do not touch my things without witness. For a moment, the three women remained exactly like that. One hand on canvas, another half extended, the velvet box between them. Then a voice called from the corridor, "Madam, Ronke is asking for you." The assistant withdrew her hand. "Stay here." She picked up the velvet box and left. The woman in the polo shirt followed. Mercy listened to their footsteps fade. She did not relax. She checked the zip of her canvas bag, then the pockets of her apron. One cloth, one pair of gloves, one small bottle of disinfectant, nothing else. Outside, the assistant waited until the corridor was clear. Ronke stood near the bridal suite, speaking through clenched teeth. "Why did you bring it back?" She refused to open her bag. She asked for witness. "Then do not use the bag." Ronke took the velvet box and opened it. The sapphire caught the corridor light. The assistant swallowed. "Ma, this thing is risky." Ronk looked at her. "What is risky is allowing one cleaner to destroy 30 million naira of future business because she wants to prove she can read an invoice. She may not complain. She has already emailed those pictures. I know her type. They collect small facts and begin to feel powerful." Ronke closed the box. "Put the blue thing where the old cleaner keeps her cloths." The assistant did not take it. "Ma, do you want Velvet Crest to close? Do you want your salary next month?" The assistant's eyes dropped. Ronke pressed the box into her hand. "Then move." At 5:56, the assistant walked down the service corridor. A CCTV camera recorded her entering the staff room. She remained inside for 43 seconds. Mercy was no longer there. A venue worker had called her to help contain water from the leaking vent after the temporary barrier shifted. Without a staff badge, Mercy should have refused. She went anyway. The assistant opened the outer pocket of Mercy's charcoal apron, which hung over the back of the bench. She removed the sapphire from the box. For 1 second, her hand remained in the air. Then she pushed the brooch beneath the folded cleaning cloth. She closed the pocket. When she returned to the corridor, Ronke was waiting. "Done?" The assistant nodded. Ronke took the empty box. "Good." Neither woman saw the photographer at the far end of the passage. He was adjusting his lens beside the floral room, not taking pictures. He noticed only that Ronke received a small box from her assistant. He would remember later. Memory was not proof. But sometimes it told you where to look. At 6:03, Mercy returned to the staff room. She found her apron where she left it, lifted it and tied it around her waist. The brooch pressed against her hip through the cloth. She assumed it was the spray bottle. In the main hall, the reception entrance was about to begin. Music rose. Guests stood. Bode and Titi waited behind the doors while Ronke counted down with one hand. 5, 4, 3. Her phone vibrated. A message from the bank. Final notice. Ronke cleared it without reading the last line. 2, 1. The doors opened. The hall exploded with applause. Bode and Titi entered beneath gold light, laughing as the LED wall played their names. From the edge of the service door, Mercy saw Bode clearly. This time there was no flower cart, no corridor, no doubt. The young engineer she had once held beneath twisted steel was now a billionaire walking into his wedding reception. Mercy pressed her lips together and stepped back before he could see her. She did not know that Ronke had already chosen the moment she would be brought forward. For the next 40 minutes, Astor Hall did what expensive halls were paid to do. It made everybody forget the labor holding it up. Bode and Titi danced beneath moving lights. The guests shouted when the music changed. Champagne traveled from tray to tray. Cameras caught laughter from angles where no service door could be seen. Mercy worked without a badge because nobody had formally released her, and nobody had returned her phone. She stayed near the rear corridor, cleaning what other workers brought to her. At 6:28, a server whispered, that the air conditioning leak had stopped after the technician cleared the drain. "At least that one is done," he said. Mercy looked toward the hall. "Until the next person decides a warning is disrespect." The server gave a tired smile and moved on. At the head table, Titi touched the empty place near her neckline. "My brooch," she said. Bode leaned closer. "What?" "My grandmother's brooch. I gave it to Ronke. Is it missing?" "No. I just remembered it." She looked toward her sister, who was speaking to the master of ceremonies beside the stage. "I will ask her later." Bode took her hand. "Later is allowed today." Titi smiled. Ronke saw them from the stage. She checked the time, 6:31. The speeches were scheduled for 7. The cake cutting at 7:20. Dinner service had started late because of the electrical shutdown. If she wanted Mercy removed before Bode's procurement guest approached her about the conference contract, she had a narrow window. She walked to the head table. "Titi, come with me for 1 minute." Titi looked at her plate. "I have not eaten. It is about the dress. What about it?" Ronke lowered her voice. "The brooch, where did you put it? I gave it to you." Ronke touched the front of her jumpsuit as if checking pockets. "You gave it to me?" Titi stared. "Ronk, no, I remember. I kept it in the bridal suite. You said you would keep it yourself." "I did. I put it inside the books. Let me check." She walked away before Titi could answer. Bode watched her go. "Hope no problem." Titi picked up her fork. "Ronke is doing Ronke. What does that mean?" "It means 10 people can be calm, but my sister will still manufacture emergency, so she can solve it." Bode glanced toward Ronke. "Should we check?" "No. Today, leave schedules and emergencies for her. Remember." He raised both hands. "I remember." It was the second time that promise kept him seated. Ronke entered the bridal suite, closed the door, then opened it again and called loudly for her assistant. "Where is the blue box?" The assistant came running. "It was here, Ma." "Where?" "Beside the garment bag." "It is not here." Their voices traveled into the corridor. 2 bridesmaids turned. A venue worker slowed down. Ronke pulled open drawers. She moved makeup cases. She lifted a garment bag and let it fall. "The brooch is missing." The assistant covered her mouth with both hands. "God forbid." Ronke faced the doorway where people had begun gathering. "Nobody should leave this corridor," she called Deal. He arrived at 6:39, wearing a dark navy security uniform, his radio clipped high on his shoulder. He was 45 and had spent most of the day dealing with drivers who wanted to park where they pleased. His face had settled into the flat expression of a man who expected every conversation to become longer than necessary. "What is missing?" he asked. Ronke showed him the empty velvet box, a sapphire brooch, family jewelry, very valuable. "Who entered the room?" "Bride, bridesmaids, photographer, my assistants." "And staff." Ronke looked down the corridor. "That cleaner has been moving everywhere." "Which cleaner?" "Mercy, teal uniform, mustard scarf." The assistant added, "She was asking about valuables earlier." Mercy had not asked about any valuable. The lie arrived quietly. Most of them did. Dealey removed a small notebook. "Did anybody see her enter?" Ronke's eyes sharpened. "Are you investigating me or looking for the brooch?" "I need to know who entered." "She has been roaming around since morning. Check her things first. If it is not there, check others." Deal looked at the crowd forming near the door. "We should involve venue management. I hired you. The room is inside their property." Ronke stepped close enough that her voice did not travel. "Dale, I did not pay your company to hold a meeting. Find my sister's jewelry before 400 people hear that security failed." His jaw moved once. "All right." He spoke into his radio and asked for Mercy to be brought from the rear corridor. Mercy came by herself at 6:44. She had heard her description over the radio. Deal stood outside the bridal suite with Ronka, the assistant, and 3 bridesmaids. "What happened?" Mercy asked. Ronka held up the empty box. "A brooch is missing." Mercy looked at it. "And you were around this room. I passed the corridor. You entered the staff room after the jewelry disappeared. The jewelry was in this room or the staff room." One bridesmaid made a sound of disbelief. "See her mouth." Ronka pointed toward the service corridor. "Bring her bag." Mercy did not move. "My bag is in the staff room." "Exactly. Who saw me take the brooch?" "Thieves do not invite witnesses." Mercy faced Deal. "Sir, are you investigating or following instruction?" His eyes narrowed. "Madam, cooperate." "I will cooperate. Bring a venue representative. Bring 1 female witness who is not working for Ronke. Write what you are searching for. Record the time." Ronke laughed. "Listen to her. Ordinary cleaner wants to set terms." Mercy kept her eyes on Deal. "If you search without record, anybody can say anything was found anywhere." Deal knew she was correct. The hall's security protocol required an independent venue representative for staff searches. It required 2 witnesses for personal bags and a written incident number. He had attended the briefing at 5:30 that morning. Ronke saw the hesitation. "Dale, do your job." He looked toward the main hall. Music, laughter. Guests moving closer to the corridor because nothing attracted well-dressed people faster than the possibility of disgrace. He made the wrong choice. "Bring the bag," he told one guard through the radio. Mercy's face did not change. "Please note that I asked for venue management." Dealey opened his notebook. "I have noted it." "You wrote it?" He had not. "I said I noted it." A guard brought Mercy's canvas bag and her apron, which she had removed while cleaning the rear sink. The brooch remained inside the outer pocket. Deal placed the bag on a narrow table. "Open it." Mercy unzipped it herself. Inside were her old shoes, water bottle, tissue-wrapped tablets, brown envelope, and folded clothes. Deal moved each item onto the table. Ronke watched the brown envelope. "What is inside?" "Private paper." "Open it." "It is not jewelry. How do we know?" Mercy removed the rent reminder and the folded event program. Ronke saw the handwritten times on the back. "What did you write there?" "Things that happened today." "Why?" "Because they happened." Ronke looked at Dealey. "Continue." The bag was empty. One bridesmaid folded her arms, so she hid it somewhere else. The assistant lifted the charcoal apron. "Check this." Mercy took it from her. "I will open it." She reached into the first pocket and removed gloves. The second held a spray bottle. Then her hand entered the outer pocket. Her fingers touched metal. Mercy stopped. Ronk leaned forward. "What is there?" Mercy pulled out the sapphire brooch. The blue stone rested on her palm. For half a second, nobody moved. Then one bridesmaid screamed. "I knew it." Phones came up. Ronke snatched the brooch from Mercy's hand. "See? See this shameless woman." Mercy stared at her own empty palm. "That was put inside my apron." "Of course. The brooch walked there by itself. I checked that pocket before." "When?" "Before your assistant came into the staff room." The assistant stepped back. "She is lying." Mercy looked directly at her. "You came with the box. I came to search. You left without searching because you refused, and now the brooch is there." Ronke clapped slowly. "Wonderful. Thief has become lawyer." Mercy turned to Deal. "Preserve the corridor camera. Do not let anybody delete it." Ronke's voice rose. "Stop talking about camera. The stolen item was found in your pocket. Then camera should not frighten you." That sentence landed. Ronke stepped forward. "Do you know how much this brooch is worth?" "No." "More than everything you have owned since they born you." Mercy's mouth tightened. Ronke continued. Louder now because the crowd had grown. You people enter luxury places and start smelling money with your whole body. Did you think you could sell this in one roadside market and become madam? Mercy looked around at the phones. Put them down. A bridesmaid laughed. Why, are you ashamed? I do not agree for you to record me. You lost the right to agree when you stole from the bride. Mercy faced Deal again. Call venue management. Call police if you believe there is theft. But do not allow these people to announce guilt before investigation. Deal rubbed his thumb along the edge of his notebook. Ronke pulled him aside. We cannot call police during the reception. The bride will collapse. You just shouted thief in front of everybody. I was angry. What do you want me to do? Get her statement. Let her admit she picked it and forgot to return it. Then remove her quietly. Deal looked at Mercy. That is not the same as theft. It gives us the brooch and ends the issue. And if she refuses? Ronke's eyes traveled toward the hall. Then she will explain herself outside. They moved Mercy into a small service office at 657. The room held one desk, 2 chairs, and a printer that shook whenever it worked. Deal stood by the door. Ronke sat behind the desk as if it belonged to her. Mercy remained standing. Ronke pushed a sheet of paper forward. Write that you found the brooch near the bridal suite, kept it inside your apron and forgot to submit it. Mercy read the first line. No. Ronke tapped the paper. If you sign, we will not call police. I did not find it. You want prison. I want the camera. Camera does not show inside your pocket. It shows who entered the staff room. Ronke leaned back. Mercy, you sense. You are 50-something. You clean events to pay rent. Who will believe you against a wedding company? Mercy looked at the silver heel beneath the desk. A small smear of black dirt marked the side where Ronke had kicked the caution sign that morning. People can believe what they like, Mercy said. I will not sign what did not happen. Ronke's voice softened. We can even pay you something. Mercy raised her eyes. How much is my name? Do not be dramatic. You asked me to sell it. I am asking the price. Deal turned his face toward the door. Ronke pressed both palms on the desk. You have no name anybody knows. Mercy stood very still. My hunger is not evidence against me. The printer clicked behind Ronke as if something inside it had shifted. No one spoke. Then noise came from the corridor. Workers had gathered after hearing that Mercy was accused. One cleaner said she saw Ronke's assistant near the staff room. Another said staff phones should be returned so they could call the agency. Ronke stood. This woman wants to scatter my event. Mercy said, your event was already standing on people's money. What did you say? The invoice says 47 workers. We are 31. Overtime and food are paid inside it. Deal looked at Ronke. What invoice? Ronke's face emptied. Mercy continued. The power hazard was reported. The staff payment was not written. Now a brooch appears in my apron after your assistant entered the room. Ronke pointed at her. There. You see? She has been planning this. She came here to blackmail me. With bread and mop? Mercy asked. Dealey closed his notebook. We need venue management now. Ronke moved to the door before him. If you call them, this issue will enter the main hall. Bode's people will hear. My sister's wedding will become gossip. It is already gossip. Ronke looked through the glass panel. Guests were crowding the service corridor. Their phones were raised. One bridesmaid was telling a group that the cleaner had stolen family jewelry. The story had escaped. Ronke's plan had been to disgrace Mercy, just enough to remove her. But shame was a liquid. Once poured, it chose its own direction. The master of ceremonies lowered the music because guests were no longer paying attention. Bode glanced toward the rear of the hall. Titi rose from her seat. What is happening? She asked. A bridesmaid hurried over. They caught one cleaner with your brooch. Titi's face changed. My brooch? Yes, inside her apron. Where is Ronki? Near the service office. Titi began walking. Bode followed. Ronki saw them coming. Everything inside her narrowed. If Mercy spoke about the invoice before Ronke controlled the room, the conference contract was dead. If Titi began asking when the brooch left her hand, the lie might not survive 10 minutes. Ronke made one final decision. She pulled Mercy from the office by the wrist. Come and explain yourself to the bride. Mercy jerked free. Do not touch me. Deal stepped between them. Everybody calm down. Ronke pushed open the service door. The main hall waited on the other side. 481 guests. White floor, gold tables, every phone hungry. Since she wants witnesses, Ronke said, let everybody hear her. Mercy looked at Deal. Do not take me there. He should have stopped it. Instead, he put one hand around her upper arm. Just cooperate. Mercy planted her feet. My statement is not a performance. Ronke walked ahead, holding the brooch above her shoulder. Guests began parting. The master of ceremonies lowered the microphone. Music stopped completely. Deal guided Mercy onto the dance floor. A cleaning bucket stood near the edge, where another worker had left it. Somebody stepped backward into the handle. The bucket overturned. Grey water spread across the white floor. A bridesmaid cried out as if blood had been spilled. Ronke looked down at the mess, then at Mercy. Kneel. Mercy stared at her. What? You have already dirtied this family. Kneel and clean the floor before police carry you away. A few guests laughed. One man said, These workers have mind. Another woman whispered, Poor people are too bold now. Mercy looked toward Titi, who had just reached the edge of the crowd. The bride's face was pale beneath the makeup. Ronke raised the brooch. Look at this thief. She entered here with a mop, but her eyes were inside rich people's pockets. Ordinary cleaner. You do not know your level. Mercy's fingers closed around the wet cloth somebody had pushed toward her. Ma, somebody planted that brooch inside my apron. Shut your mouth! Ronke pointed to the floor. Kneel. Mercy did not kneel. Deal took her arm, the left one. Pain shot from shoulder to fingers. Her knees folded before she could stop them. The cloth dropped into the water. Guests lifted their phones higher. Deal tried to pull her forward. Mercy winced and turned her face toward him. Do not pull me like that. Support the arm before you move me. At the groom's table, Bode stopped. The words did not reach him as words. They opened a roof. Dust entered his mouth. Metal pressed against his ribs. Somewhere beyond the darkness, men shouted that they should drag him out before fire reached the generator, and a woman's voice cut through them. Do not drag him. Support his neck before you move him. Bode looked at the cleaner on the floor. Mustard scarf. Thin scar above the left eyebrow. One arm held close to the body. His champagne glass slipped. It struck the table, rolled once and fell onto the carpet without breaking. Mercy? The cleaner looked toward him. For a second, her mouth opened, but no sound came. Then she said the name she had kept out of his wedding day. Bode? The phones began to lower. Not all of them. Enough. Bode walked past the head table, past the flowers, past guests who moved before he reached them. Ronke stepped into his path. Bode, please. This is a staff matter, he went around her. No, he said. This is my matter. Bode stopped in front of Mercy. Up close, there was no room for doubt. Age had drawn lines beside her mouth and silvered the hair beneath her scarf. The scar above her eyebrow had faded to a pale thread. But her eyes were the same ones that had watched him breathe beneath a collapsed roof and refused to look away when he began to panic. He crouched. Deal still had one hand around Mercy's arm. Release her, Bode said. Deal removed his hand at once. Bode did not touch Mercy, not yet. Can you stand? With support on the right side. He offered his forearm. Mercy used it to rise, keeping her left shoulder still. The wet cloth remained on the floor between them. Ronke tried again. Bode. The brooch was found inside her apron. I know you may know her from somewhere, but… Bode turned his head. From somewhere? The hall held its breath badly. Chairs scraped. Somebody's phone rang once and was silenced. Bode faced Mercy again. May I tell them? Mercy looked at the crowd, then at Titi, then at the cameras. Tell them what happened, she said. Do not decorate it. Bode nodded. He stood and took the microphone from the master of ceremonies. When he spoke, his voice was not loud. It did not need to be. On July 17th, 2012, I was working as a site engineer at a warehouse project in Apapa. A murmur moved through the hall. Bode continued. We had received steel supports that did not match the specification. I reported it. The site manager told us to continue because stopping work would delay handover. He glanced at Mercy. At 5:43 that evening, part of the temporary roof collapsed. The hole disappeared from his face. For him, the dust returned. The warehouse had been hot that day. Hot enough that men removed their helmets whenever the supervisor turned away. Trucks came and went through the gate. The smell of diesel sat beneath everything. Bode had argued with the site manager at 3:20. These frames are not the same grade, he said, holding the delivery sheet. The manager barely looked. They are approved by who? By the people paying your salary. Bode pointed toward the roof section. We need to stop installation. We need to finish this week. If it fails, engineer, do not teach me fear. Sign the receipt. Bode refused. He sent 2 messages to the contractor's office. He took photographs of the labels. Then, because he was 27 and still believed a written objection would protect everybody, he remained on the site while installation continued. At 5:43, one support buckled. The sound was not like thunder. Thunder came from far away. This came from directly above. Men ran. A sheet of roofing folded. Steel dropped across the work area. Bode turned toward a laborer near the scaffolding and shouted for him to move. Then the floor struck his face. When he opened his eyes, his lower body was trapped beneath a frame. Dust covered his tongue. Something sharp pressed near his hip. He could hear fuel dripping near the generator housing. People shouted from outside the broken section. Pull him! Use rope! Fire can start. 2 men reached him and caught his arms. Bode screamed. A woman pushed between them. Stop! Do not drag him. It was Mercy. She had been cleaning the contractor's office after the regular cleaner left early. Her blouse was torn at the sleeve. Blood ran from a cut above her eyebrow where flying metal had struck her. One man shouted, Madam, leave road. If you drag his neck like that, you can finish him. Are you doctor? No, but I attended first aid. She knelt in the dust beside Bode. Can you hear me? He tried to answer. Only air came. Do not move your head, she said. Look at me. The generator coughed behind them. Mercy pointed to a laborer. Switch off that generator from the outside panel. Do not enter the fuel side. Then to another. Call ambulance again. Tell them 1 person is trapped, possible neck injury, bleeding but conscious. The man stared. Go, he went. Mercy folded a clean section of cloth and pressed it near Bode's side, where blood had begun soaking his shirt. He grabbed her wrist. I cannot feel my leg. Do not test it. I cannot. Breathe first. The roof. The roof has already fallen. It cannot surprise you again. Breathe. It was not comforting. It worked. She stayed beside him for 37 minutes while trained rescuers cleared enough steel to remove him safely. When somebody tried to lift him by the shoulders, Mercy repeated the instruction that had just stopped a wedding hall 12 years later. Support his neck before you move him. Bode was taken to hospital with a fractured leg, damaged wrist, deep laceration, and temporary nerve compression. Doctors later told him that careless movement might have worsened the injury. But saving his body was only half of what Mercy did. 3 days after the collapse, while Bode was still in hospital, the contractor issued a statement claiming that he had approved the materials and ignored safety procedures. His messages disappeared from the company phone system. The delivery sheet carried a signature beside his name. It was not his. Mercy heard workers discussing it outside the office. She had seen the truck arrive. She had written the registration number on the back of a cleaning supply receipt because the driver damaged a bucket near the gate and promised to replace it. She had also taken a photograph when the labels on the frames looked different from the ones delivered the previous week. Not because she understood steel grades, because one label was peeling off another. A man from the contractor's office called her into a room. "You did not see anything," he said. Mercy sat across from him, hands folded on her lap. "I saw the truck. You are a cleaner." "Yes, so face what concerns you." A roof falling concerned everybody under it. He placed an envelope on the desk. "There is money inside. Take it and forget the number." Mercy did not touch the envelope. "Write that request for me." The man leaned back. "What?" "Write that you are paying me to forget the number." His face changed. By the next morning, Mercy's cleaning contract was terminated for misconduct. Her name went into a private vendor note as difficult and confrontational. For months, agencies stopped calling her. She still gave the receipt, photograph, and her statement to investigators. The truck number led to the supplier. The supplier's records showed that cheaper sorts had been relabeled. Bode's saved personal messages proved he had objected. The forged signature was examined. He was cleared. Mercy was not restored to her job. By the time Bode could walk without support and began searching for her, the contractor's labor company had closed. Its file listed only Mercy as a first name, one disconnected number, and an address where she had never lived. Years passed. Bode carried the debt anyway. Now, standing beneath wedding lights, he looked at the woman who had paid the cost of telling the truth while he built a company from the life she helped save. He spoke into the microphone. "Mercy saved my life before I owned one company. She defended my name when defending me cost her job." A guest near the front lowered her phone completely. Another did not. Bode looked across the room. "But listen to me well. Even if she had never met me, even if she had done nothing for me, nobody had the right to force her onto this floor and declare her guilty without investigation." Ronke's shoulders stiffened. "This is becoming emotional," she said. The brooch was still found on her. Titi stepped forward. Until that moment, she had been staring at the sapphire in Ronke's hand. "Where did you say it was taken from?" she asked. Ronke blinked. "The bridal suite." "When?" "Before reception." Titi looked at the brooch, then at her sister. "No." The word was soft. It traveled. Ronke's eyes sharpened. "What do you mean, no?" "I removed it after I changed into this dress. I put it inside your hand. You gave it to me and I placed it in the room. You told me you would keep it yourself. I did. Then I put it inside the box." Titi pointed to the empty velvet box on the service office table, visible through the open door. "Who saw you place it there?" Ronke opened her mouth. No answer came immediately. That delay did more damage than a shout. The photographer, standing near the floral arch, raised one hand. "I took pictures when the bride handed it over." Ronke turned. "You were told not to photograph the adjustment. I stopped after you told me. Delete those pictures." Bode looked at him. "Do not delete anything." Ronke's face tightened. "It is my sister's wedding. I can decide what photographs remain." "No," Titi said. "Not now." The photographer checked his camera. He scrolled through the images, then zoomed into one. Timestamp is 5:52:14. The brooch is still on the dress. He moved to the next. 5:52:19. The bride is removing it. Next, 5:52:23. It is in Ronke's right hand. The room shifted around that simple sequence. Ronke folded her arms. Yes, I already said she gave it to me. I put it in the box after. The photographer scrolled again. I also have 5:52:41. You are holding the closed box. Exactly. That does not show where it went after, Dealey said. Every face turned toward him. He had not meant to defend Ronke. He had stated the weakness because it was true. Mercy looked at him. Then preserved the camera. This time Deli wrote it down. Bode called the venue manager forward. The man had been standing near the sound desk, trying to understand how his wedding hall had become an evidence room. Can the service corridor footage be secured? Bode asked. Yes, sir. Secure it now. No deletion. No overwrite. Record who accesses it. Ronke stepped in. You cannot seize footage because of one cleaner's story. Bode's eyes moved to her. I am not seizing it. I am asking the venue to preserve its own record after a theft allegation and a disputed staff search. The venue manager nodded quickly and spoke into his radio. Bode turned to the photographer. Keep the original files and metadata. Do not send them around. Then he looked at the guests. And everybody recording this woman on the floor, stop posting it. You do not know what happened, one guest said, but it is already online. Mercy closed her eyes once. Bode heard. His jaw tightened. Titi stepped beside Mercy. I am sorry. Mercy looked at the crimson dress, the careful makeup, the small empty place where the brooch had been. Do you know what happened? No, then do not apologize for what you have not checked. Help them check it. Titi swallowed. All right. She faced the hall. The brooch did not disappear from my dress. I handed it directly to Ronke. That is the truth, I know. Ronke's voice broke through. Titi, be careful. Of what? Of destroying your own family in front of strangers. Titi looked around at the guests. Then she looked back at her sister. Family is not a place where evidence goes to die. A glass slipped from a waiter's tray near the back. It struck the carpet and remained whole. Ronke stood without moving. For the first time that day, she looked like someone else had taken control of the room. Bode handed the microphone to Titi and walked toward the service corridor. Where are the workers' phones? He asked. The woman in the black polo shirt pointed toward the crate. Inside, sir. Return them. Ronke found her voice. No, we are still investigating theft. Bode turned. The phones belong to them. They signed policy. Mercy spoke from the dance floor. We did not receive policy. They collected them. Bode looked at Ronke. Return them. The crate was opened. 30 phones began finding their owners. As screens lit up across the service corridor, the workers looked less like a silent background and more like people who could call someone. Ronke saw it happen. That frightened her more than the billionaire's anger. The venue manager returned 7 minutes later with a laptop and one member of his security team. By then, no one was eating. Dinner plates sat untouched beneath silver covers. The master of ceremonies had retreated beside the disc jockey, microphone lowered. Even the children present, as unnamed guests, had been taken toward the rear tables by adults, who suddenly remembered that public humiliation was not entertainment, meant for every age. The venue manager placed the laptop on a service table. I have copied the corridor footage from 5:30 to 6:15, he said. The system log shows no deletion. Ronke crossed her arms. And what will corridor footage prove? The brooch was found in the apron. Mercy stood beside a chair now, her right hand resting on its back. A venue medic had examined her shoulder and asked her not to lift anything. She listened without speaking. The manager opened the recording. At 5:51, workers passed through the corridor carrying garment bags. At 5:54, the photographer appeared near the floral room. At 5:56:09, Ronke's assistant entered the staff room holding the velvet box. She came out 43 seconds later. At 5:56:56, she handed the box to Ronke. The video had no sound. It did not need much. Ronke leaned toward the screen. She went there to search. Mercy's voice came from behind her. She did not search. Ronke turned. You were not even inside. I was called to the leaking vent. Before I left, my apron pocket had gloves and cloth. When I returned, the brooch was inside. The assistant began shaking her head. No, she is trying to put it on me. Bode looked at the venue manager. Is there camera inside the staff room? No, sir. Only corridor. Then we do not pretend it shows what happened inside. Ronke seized the sentence. Thank you. Bode continued. But it destroys the claim that Mercy alone had opportunity. It also shows your assistant entering with the box after the brooch was placed in your custody. Ronke's lips parted. Titi looked at her sister as if studying a building, after discovering a crack beneath the paint. Why did your assistant have my brooch? She asked. She was helping me keep it. You told me you kept it yourself. I cannot carry every single thing on my body. Then why did you say it disappeared from the bridal suite? Ronke's eyes moved from Titi to Bode to the guests. The day was chaotic. I made a mistake about the sequence. Mercy said, You did not make a mistake when you called me thief. The hall heard her. Ronke pointed at the sapphire. It was still in your apron, and your assistant entered the room with the box. That is not proof she put it there. No, Mercy said. It is proof you should have investigated before putting me on the floor. Deal opened his notebook again. His hand was unsteady now. Bode looked at him. What procedure did you follow for the search? Deal did not answer at once. Ronke said, He followed my instruction. Bode kept his attention on Dealey. I asked him. Dealey cleared his throat. Venue policy requires a representative and 2 witnesses for personal property. Were they present? No, sir. Did Mercy request them? Dealey looked at the page where he had finally written her words after the damage was done. Yes. Did you record the search? No. Did you establish who last had custody of the brooch? No. Ronke stepped toward him. Deal, do not stand there and form innocence. You knew there was pressure. You agreed we needed to settle it quickly. He looked at her. I agreed to search. I did not agree to drag her into the hall. You held her arm. His eyes dropped. Yes. The word came out rough. I did. Mercy watched him close the notebook. I should have called venue management when she asked, he said. I knew the rule. Ronke gave a sharp laugh. So now everybody wants to be righteous because Bode has recognized her. That sentence struck the center of the matter. Bode faced the guests. Exactly. People shifted. If I had remained seated, he said, how many of you would still be recording her on her knees? No one answered. A woman near the front lowered her eyes to her phone screen. Bode continued. How many believed she was guilty because of the evidence? And how many believed it because her uniform made the accusation easy? A man adjusted his cuff. One bridesmaid quietly deleted a video, then opened her recently deleted folder and removed it there too. Mercy saw her. She said nothing. The server who had found the invoice stepped out from the service corridor. Sir, there is another issue. Rock spun around. Go back to work. He stopped but did not retreat. Bode motioned him forward. What issue? The server looked at Mercy. She gave one small nod. We are 31 temporary workers, he said. But the invoice says 47. They promised overtime, food and transport. We have not received any written rate. They made us sign a form saying payment was complete. Noise moved through the workers behind him. Ronka raised her voice. That is a confidential company document taken out of context. Mercy removed the folded event program from the brown envelope. The invoice number is VCTB 161124009. Ronk's face tightened. You stole company records too? I memorized the number. Bode turned to a member of his finance team seated among the guests. Was labor paid through the wedding account? The man opened his phone and stepped aside to make a call. The wait lasted less than 3 minutes, but the hall felt every second. When he returned, his voice was careful. Velvet Crest invoiced for 47 temporary staff. Staff meals, transport, and overtime until midnight were included. The invoice was paid in full 8 days ago. A cleaner behind Mercy laughed once. It was not amusement. She held up the slice of bread she had wrapped for later. This is the meal. Several guests turned. The clean white table card still said, honoring the hands that build our lives. One worker began speaking, then another. My uniform deposit is $7,000. They said there is no overtime. They collected our phones without written policy. They wanted us to sign full payment before work. The staff count on the roster is 31. Mercy added, I took a photograph at 6:39 this morning. Her phone had been returned. She opened the image and handed it to the venue manager, not to the crowd. Bode looked at the finance representative. Preserve the payment records. Then he looked at Ronke. Did you invoice 47 workers? Ronke folded her arms tighter. Some staffing was off-site. Where? Logistics, preparation. Loading, names? I do not carry payroll in my head. Then provide it after review. Ronke's laugh came again, thinner now. You are taking the word of casual workers over mine in the middle of your wedding. Bode glanced at the dance floor. Grey water still marked one corner. A cleaner had placed the yellow caution sign upright again. This wedding carries my name, he said. I asked how the flowers would look. I asked whether the entrance video was ready. I did not ask when the cleaners would be paid. He looked at Titi. I allowed all of this to become somebody else's detail. Titi's fingers tightened around the microphone. I told you to leave everything to Ronke. That does not remove my name from the payment. No, she said. It does not remove mine either. Ronke stared at both of them. So now you want to shame me because one worker knows how to tell story. Titi stepped closer. This is not about story. Did you receive money for 47 workers? I received payment for a complete event. Did you tell the workers there was no overtime? Do you know what it costs to organize something at this level? Clients delay. Vendors inflate. Everybody wants their own share. That is not an answer. I built Velvet Crest from nothing. Titi's voice stayed low. And did you build it with their money? Ronke's face twisted. You think because you married a rich man today, you can stand over me? Titi looked down at her crimson dress, then at Mercy's wet uniform. No. I think because you are my sister, I gave you trust you did not have to earn. That was my mistake. Ronke reached for her arm. Titi, come. We cannot do this before strangers. Titi moved back. Do not touch me. The same words Mercy had used in the service corridor. Ronke heard the echo. So did Mercy. Bode called the finance representative forward. From the wedding contingency account, calculate every worker's promised shift pay, overtime from the stated cutoff, transport allowance, and full uniform deposit. Pay them directly tonight or by verified transfer before noon tomorrow. Ronke's eyes widened. You cannot pay twice and remove it from my contract without review. I am not deciding your liability tonight. I am making sure workers do not carry our dispute home in empty pockets. He faced the workers. Payment will not depend on whether you continue this event. Anyone who wants to leave can leave after providing contact details to the venue manager. Anyone who stays will be paid for the actual hours worked. No one cheered. That mattered. Real workers did not celebrate before money entered their accounts. The server who had spoken first asked, "Will it be written?" Bode nodded. Yes. Mercy looked at him. Use the names on the roster. Do not let anybody add ghost people to the second payment. Bode met her eyes. You are right. Ronke turned toward the procurement guest she had hoped to impress. The man had already stepped away and was speaking quietly on his phone. The conference contract was gone. She knew it before anybody said so, but Bode was not finished. The campaign launch is cancelled, he said. Titi looked at the cards on the tables, honoring the hands that build our lives. Bode picked one up. We have no right to launch a campaign about dignity, while the people working here are unpaid and unheard. He placed the card face down. The hall remained silent. Then Mercy spoke. Sir, Bode turned. Do not make me the only worker you remember. He looked past her at the cleaners, servers, drivers, and security staff standing along the service door. I will not, he said. Mercy held his gaze. Promises were cheap in decorated rooms. Bode seemed to understand that she was not accepting it yet. The venue medic returned with a sling for her shoulder. Mercy allowed him to fit it. Titi ordered that a chair be brought, then stopped herself before turning Mercy into another centerpiece. Would you like to sit here, she asked, or somewhere private? Private. Titi nodded. The choice was small. It was also the first one anybody had given Mercy in more than an hour. At 7:38, the venue electrician certified the repaired power line safe. Workers who wanted to leave were released. 11 left. 20 stayed, mostly because they had already spent transport money getting there and wanted the additional hours. The wedding continued without the campaign's speech. No grand announcement repaired the room. Dinner was served late. The music returned softly. Guests spoke in careful voices, as if volume itself had become suspicious. Bode and Titi cut the cake at 8:17. Their smiles in the photographs were real, but not easy. Mercy gave a written statement to venue management, collected her phone, and left Astor Hall at 8:49 with her sling, canvas bag, and brown envelope. Bode wanted to arrange a car. She accepted. Not because she wanted a billionaire's favor, because her shoulder hurt too much for the bus. Before entering the vehicle, she looked back at the gold doors. The yellow caution sign stood beside the dance floor, exactly where Ronke had kicked it away that morning. This time, nobody moved it. The first payment entered Mercy's account at 11:26 the next morning. 18,500 naira for the shift. 3,500 overtime, calculated to the time she left. Transport. Refund of the uniform deposit. She had never understood why she was required to pay. The transfer description was plain. Wedding labor payment. No gift. No charity. Mercy checked the figures against the written breakdown sent by the venue manager. Then she called 2 of the workers whose numbers she had collected before leaving. Did your own enter? Yes, ma. Check the amount. It is complete. Check your deposit too. The woman laughed. Madam Mercy, you do not rest. Mercy looked at the sling across her chest. I am resting. My mouth is not injured. By noon, 29 workers had confirmed payment. 2 had supplied incorrect account numbers. Their transfers were resolved before evening. That was the first repair. It was not the last. The review began on Monday. Astor Hall preserved the footage, access logs, and technical report. The photographer delivered original image files rather than screenshots. Bode's finance team secured invoices, proof of transfer, and the contract scope. Workers submitted messages from the agency, photographs of forms and records of uniform deposits. Mercy submitted the email she had sent herself at 10:58 on the wedding morning. 3 photographs: leaking pipe, wet floor, power box. The email existed hours before the shutdown, which made Ronke's claim that Mercy invented the hazard after causing trouble impossible to maintain. Deal submitted his notebook. The early pages were incomplete. Mercy's request for an independent witness was missing. The time of the search was wrong by 11 minutes. After the public confrontation, his notes became suddenly detailed. He did not try to hide that. "I knew the procedure," he told the investigator. "I allowed urgency and the client's pressure to replace it." "Why?" Deal looked at his hands. "Because the accused person was a cleaner. I thought if I searched quickly and found nothing, the matter would end. When something was found, I started defending the search instead of questioning it. And the force used. I held her arm after she resisted being taken into the hall. Did she threaten anyone? No. Attempt to escape? No. Then why did you hold her?" Deal did not answer for several seconds, because Ronke told me to move her. The investigator waited. Deal added the sentence he had used inside his own head all weekend. "I was following instruction." Saying it aloud made it sound smaller. He was suspended before the interview ended. His later cooperation was recorded. It did not erase what he had done. Velvet Crest's records took longer. The company provided a list of 16 supposed off-site workers. 5 telephone numbers did not connect. 4 belonged to people who said they had worked previous events, but not the wedding. 3 names appeared twice with different spellings. 2 bank accounts were linked to existing vendors rather than workers. Only 2 people could prove they had performed preparation work before the event. The staff meal invoice showed rice, chicken, bottled water, and fruit for 47 people. The workers had received bread, margarine, and 1 tray of stew. The overtime budget had been withdrawn from the business account 3 days before the wedding. No matching worker payments appeared. The evidence concerning the brooch was referred separately for legal review. The camera did not show a hand placing jewelry into an apron, and no honest investigator pretended otherwise. But Ronke's original account changed 4 times. Her assistant admitted that she entered the staff room carrying the brooch box. Later, after obtaining independent advice, the assistant acknowledged that Ronke instructed her to place the brooch in Mercy's apron. She said she obeyed because Ronke threatened her job. That explanation did not make the act disappear. It did explain how it happened. Mercy did not attend every meeting. She had spent enough of her life sitting across from people who asked the same question 5 ways to see whether poverty changed the answer. She gave her statement once, corrected 2 errors in the transcript, and asked for updates in writing. When a lawyer from Bode's company asked what settlement she wanted, Mercy placed both hands on the table. "My unpaid work is already paid. Yes, Ma. My shoulder treatment should be covered. Yes. The public accusation should be corrected publicly. We agree. Then the remaining issue should follow proper process. Do not use me to perform revenge." The lawyer paused. "Mr. Balagun also wants to support you personally." Mercy's face changed by 1 degree. "What does personally mean?" "He mentioned buying you a home." Mercy leaned back. "No." The lawyer blinked. "Ma?" I said no. It would not affect the case. I did not save Bode because I priced a house in the future. Nobody is suggesting that. Then do not pay for it like a debt. The lawyer closed his folder halfway. "May I ask what you would accept?" Mercy thought about the agencies that stopped calling after the warehouse investigation. About the years she learned to photograph rosters because forms could be rewritten. About cleaners who knew where hazards were but had no line on which to report them. Open the safety training to workers, she said. Not only managers, cleaners, servers, drivers. Anybody expected to see a danger before a guest sees it. The lawyer opened the folder again. Training for how many people? If you are asking me, start with the 31 from the wedding. Then ask venues how many they can take. And for you, I will apply like everybody. Bode heard the answer that afternoon. He did not argue. That was new for him. On the night after the wedding, he and Titi sat in the hotel suite, with the untouched flowers still standing in silver bowls. Titi had removed the crimson dress and wrapped herself in a hotel robe. Bode's ivory jacket hung over a chair. They had been married for less than 12 hours. Neither spoke for a long time. At 1:12 in the morning, Titi removed her earrings and placed them on the bedside table. You tell Mercy's story in speeches, she said. Bode looked at her. Sometimes. You say a cleaner saved your life and taught you that safety belongs to everybody. Yes, but at our own wedding, you checked the fire certificate and did not check the workers' terms. He rubbed the old stiffness in his wrist. No. I told you to leave it to Ronke. You trusted your sister. That is an explanation. Bode looked at the carpet. Not an excuse, Titi nodded. For several minutes, the air conditioner filled the room. Then she said, I do not know how to forgive her. You do not have to decide tonight. I do not know if I want to. You do not have to decide that tonight, either. Titi pressed her thumb against the place on her finger where the wedding ring sat. People will say I destroyed my family over a cleaner. Bode looked at her. Mercy has a name. Titi's thumb stopped. Yes, she said. She does. They did not solve Ronke before sunrise. They did something harder. They stopped pretending love required them to deny what she had done. Within 3 weeks, Velvet Crest lost its chance to bid for Asterline's conference series. 2 other clients suspended pending events after reviewing labor complaints. Ronke sold a company vehicle and part of her equipment stock to meet refund obligations, vendor debts, and legal costs. She did not become homeless overnight. She did not kneel in a market while crowds laughed. Real consequences were slower and less photogenic. Her office became quieter. Calls stopped returning. Staff demanded written contracts. Vendors requested deposits before delivery. The authority she once carried in her voice no longer opened every door. The formal correction was posted on Velvet Crest's business pages and sent to every guest contact available through the event list. It stated that no evidence established Mercy Ivy stole the sapphire brooch, that the public allegation was made before proper investigation, and that the company apologized for the search, detention, and humiliation she experienced. Ronke objected to the wording. Her lawyer told her the wording was already generous. She signed. Months later, a restorative meeting was offered to the affected workers. Participation was voluntary. Mercy attended 1 session. Ronke sat across from 6 workers in a plain conference room, without flowers, music, or family members to shield her. She wore navy blue, no electric magenta, no silver heels. At first, she spoke like a business owner explaining pressure. Clients delay payment. Vendors increase prices. There are realities workers do not understand. Mercy looked at her. Did those realities put the brooch in my pocket? Ronke's mouth closed. A server described borrowing transport money for the wedding. A cleaner described signing the full payment form because she feared being sent home. Another worker said her uniform deposit had been taken from 3 different jobs and returned only once. Ronke listened badly for the first hour. Then the assistant who had planted the brooch described the 43 seconds inside the staff room. I opened the pocket, she said. I saw gloves. I pushed the brooch under the cloth. I knew what it would do to her. Ronke stared at the table. I did not think it would go that far. Mercy's reply came without heat. You brought it to the dance floor. Ronke lifted her face. I was afraid of losing everything. You were willing to give me the loss instead. There was no clean answer. Mercy did not offer forgiveness to make the meeting beautiful. She asked whether every worker had been repaid. She asked whether the false incident report had been withdrawn from the agency. She asked whether Ronke's company had stopped using blank payment acknowledgements. The mediator recorded each answer. That was enough for the day. Deal remained suspended for 6 weeks. Before returning to security work, he completed training in de-escalation, evidence preservation, staff searches, and contract worker rights. His employer removed him from supervisory duty for another 3 months. The next time a client told him to search a cleaner's bag without a witness, he refused. The client shouted. Deal called venue management. Nobody applauded. The rule simply held. 14 months after the wedding, Mercy completed a basic occupational safety certificate through the worker program Bodie's Company, funded with 3 venue associations. She passed the written assessment on her second attempt. The first time, she failed one section on chemical storage. She went home, studied the labels on every cleaning bottle in her room, and returned 2 weeks later. She passed by 6 marks. When a worker safety liaison position opened with the venue association, Mercy submitted an application. She listed 12 years of contract cleaning, incident documentation, first aid training, and the new certificate. Bode did not sit on the interview panel. Mercy insisted on that. She received the job after 2 interviews and a practical assessment in which she identified 9 hazards in a mock event hall. The assessors had planted 8. The 9th was a loose wheel on the demonstration cart. Her salary was not billionaire money. It was regular money. That mattered more. 1 year after she started the role, Mercy returned to Astor Hall for a small workplace safety event. There were no red roses rising above people's heads, no gold cards praising invisible hands, just folding tables, bottled water, and printed checklists. Bode and Titi arrived together. Their marriage had survived the wedding, though not by forgetting it. Titi no longer used velvet crest. She had not cut Ronke out of her life completely, but every conversation now had boundaries where blind trust used to be. Near the entrance, a cleaner named Bola had just mopped the floor. She wore a grey uniform and placed a caution sign across the walkway. Bode approached while speaking to Titi and almost stepped around it. Bola raised one hand. Please, sir, the floor is still wet. Bode stopped. A year earlier, he might have smiled, stepped over the edge, and continued talking. This time he moved back fully. Thank you, Bola. She looked at him, surprised that he knew her name. Titi noticed. So did Mercy. Mercy stood beside the registration table, with a clipboard tucked beneath her right arm. Her left shoulder still complained during cold mornings, but it no longer decided what work she could do. She checked the walkway. Caution sign visible. Traffic redirected. Floor drying. She drew one line on the form and wrote beneath it. Hazard corrected. No incident. From my own point of view, the most painful part of what happened at that wedding was not the missing brooch. It was how quickly respectable people accepted that a cleaner could be condemned without evidence. Workplace procedures, payment systems, and legal remedies may differ between organizations and locations. Some processes in this story have been simplified for clarity. But the principle does not change. An accusation is not proof, poverty is not guilt, and a uniform never removes a person's right to dignity. Mercy did not become worthy when Bode recognized her. He only forced the room to recognize the worth they should have seen before he stood up.